There are some circumstances in which it seems, at least plausibly the case, that God would have good reason to allow suffering. Cases where it's clearly beneficial in some way, it serves some higher order good. And if we're willing to accept that, God has good reason to inflict this form of suffering, or to permit this form of suffering, why not think that he has reason to permit more suffering or different kinds of suffering? I can answer this by analogy, maybe. A famous analogy that's often given in the context of a discussion that's quite helpful is to imagine a child at the dentist. And the child's too young. You can't explain to the child why they're undergoing the pain of the dentistry, but we all know that they're going through it because there's some better cause that's being served by it. I actually want to imagine that you see a parent who, and maybe you don't know anything about dentistry, maybe you're from an isolated tribe or something, and you see a parent kind of taking these sharp objects and digging into a child's mouth, and you think, oh, this looks pretty bad. Someone explains to you about dentistry, and you think, okay, right, so there's good reason for the parent to be inflicting this kind of suffering. So now imagine that you were walking along a road and you saw a parent just mercilessly beating up a child, just ripping the child limb from limb, just punching it, like contorting it out of shape. And you said, this is terrible, this is disgusting, and we need to intervene. And I said to you, well, look, hold on a second. You accepted that a parent might have good reason to inflict suffering on their child if there's good justifiable reason. And if you're willing to accept it for these kinds of suffering, why wouldn't you accept it for this kind of suffering? It's at least plausible they have good reason. Maybe there is some kind of reason that we are just incapable of understanding about their relationship, where this is something that needs to be done and is morally justifiable. But I don't think it just follows from the fact that we can imagine some circumstances in which the infliction of suffering would be permitted by a good God, that we should just hypothesize that even if we see a great deal of apparently meaningless suffering, we should just conclude on the basis of that yeah, he probably has good reason for that too. I just don't think that follows.
Well, I think my reply to that would be, if I saw a parent engage in terrible abuse of a child, I have background knowledge to know what human parents are and are not capable of to contribute to the well-being of a child. A parent who is dismembering or eviscerating a child, I have sufficient background knowledge to know they cannot be contributing to the child's well-being. But with God, however, if God exists, then I know that he is not limited in power or knowledge to bring about greater goods. He's not limited like a human parent in that regard. And then also, so the argument that you make, it is subject to a modus tollens, to a reversal. It's essentially saying, if gratuitous evils exist, God does not exist. Gratuitous evils exist, therefore God does not exist. But if God does exist, it just turns out the evils are only apparently gratuitous.